When you think of horror, what do you think of? You might think of gory visuals, theatrical and iconic villains, or the unease you feel during the films. But what creates that unease? Sure, the visuals and the villains are a part of it, but we overlook one crucial element when considering horror: sound. Today, we'll be discussing how sound in horror is used to drive emotion in all of us. Music and sound are greatly involved in the production of dread, having the peculiar ability to produce eerie atmosphere, to express angst and proverbially frighten us out of our wits. Music and sound specifically attack the nervous system, both physically, with the aid of psychoacoustics, and, in a more abstract way, via culturally developed forms cluing the audience in of evil. This is what Julia Heimerdinger says in her article, Music and Sound in the Horror Film, and why some modern and avant-garde music lends itself to it so well. One of the films we'll be discussing related to this topic is Zach Krieger's 2022 film, Barbarian. Spoilers ahead, but if you haven't seen this movie yet, what have you been doing? Barbarian is a horror thriller about a young woman named Tess staying in an already occupied Airbnb.
This is 476 Barbary, right?
Yeah, I think so.
I'm renting this place. I booked it on Airbnb like a month ago.
I booked it on HomeAway.
You're fucking kidding.
Which turns out to be the least of her worries when she finds a maze under the house that hides a dark secret.
Someone else is down here.
What?
This movie uses sound and music in ways we wouldn't necessarily expect, even without the needed context. When Tess finds Keith, the other Airbnb occupant, in the tunnels of the basement, their argument is made even more tense with the almost heartbeat sound that seems to escalate the longer they argue. The audience is expecting something to happen, the music is cluing them in, but it still leaves questions of exactly what.
Come this way. Tess, we have to come this way. Someone's down. I'm not going back.
When the mother kills Keith, the music only gets louder and stronger, her screech finishing off one of the most tense moments of the film. Leaving the audience in silence to process what just happened. Heimerdinger also goes on to talk about the sound effects used to create suspense, one of those being the sound of wind howling, which is made more tense by a stinger that follows it. Funny enough, that falls perfectly in line with one of the final scenes of Barbarian, when AJ, played by Justin Long, pushes Tess off the roof. A soft wind howl is heard as we see her plummet to the ground. But contrary to what Heimerdinger goes on to say, there is no stinger. This is what creates a new space in horror, the lack of a usual trope. Where we would be used to hearing a strong sound come in as Justin Long's character looks over the side of the building, there is nothing, and again, we are left to process. As we talk about sound, we must also talk about silence. In order to create horror, and sometimes comedy, not every moment must be filled with an impactful stinger. Silence is just as powerful for creating an eerie atmosphere. A movie that leans more into this than Barbarian is 12 Hour Shift, a horror comedy about a drug-addicted nurse and her crazy cousin who get into, let's say, shenanigans when they lose a kidney meant for an organ trafficker.
Bring me the fucking organs.
Shit.
There are many times in this film where the lack of sound is what gives us the heebie-jeebies. The hospital is crafted with an emptiness we can't quite put our fingers on. Most times, we don't miss the sound until it's gone. But in 12 Hour Shift, we can't help but want it back the second we step foot into the lobby. Silence is also used as a precursor to something eerie. In Barbarian, the soft howling of the wind wasn't followed by anything, just a void of sound. In this film, however, a scene we can look to for this is the parallel killing scene between Mandy and Regina. A soft music plays, and as Mandy's coworker ends her prayer, there is silence for just a moment.
Have you been?
A cover of Are You Washed in the Blood begins to play, and as the music swells, Mandy and Regina are seen covered in blood.
Are you washed in the blood of the Lamb? Are you fully trusting resting in his gracious power. Are you washed in the blood of the Lamb?
As a lullaby plays on a small television in a dimly lit room in Barbarian, a strained and uneasy feeling is cultivated in these both.
Let my baby determine how long he likes to nurse.
Oh, God.
That this process is relaxing.
These soft and eerie melodies tie these movies together. However, what separates these scenes is what comes after. While Barbarian leans more into the horror aspect, in 12-Hour Shift, the haunting melody is cut short when Mandy clumsily drops a metal tray on the ground, adding and leaning into the comedy. In a research paper written by Mylaya Govia called Art House Horror and the Manifestation of Fear Through Sound, From The Shining to Get Out, the author talks about various horror films and how diegetic and non-diegetic sounds are used to build tension, with them going on to write about the movie It Follows. The soundscape is silent in the moments before she sees them. Once they are revealed, the soundscape is flooded with the non-diegetic noise of the soundtrack. The sounds in Barbarian, along with 12-Hour Shift, drive our anxiety through the roof with eerie music and strategic silence, and make it worse when the non-diegetic noise can only be heard by those who know what is coming, the audience.
Hello.
So the next time you watch a horror movie and feel your heart beating fast and your palms beginning to sweat, close your eyes. The tension and fear are all in what you hear.